Daniel Brownlee from the School of Architecture and Design of the University of Camerino. This presentation is about adaptation to climate change in the Adriatic coastal cities, outdoor urban spaces measures for the short time scale. As is known, climate change events combined with the vulnerabilities and with the exposures of a territory and its population can involve risks for urban structures, for economic activities, and not least for the safety and the health of people. The impacts on the cities of the Mediterranean coastal area, subject to intense phenomena of anthropic pressures that reach higher peaks during the summer month, can be measured in terms of concentration of intense rainy events, decrease in average rainfall and increase in drought phenomena, increase in average temperatures more than in the rest of Europe, increase in mortality due to the effects of heat waves and urban heat island effect, but also the potential creation of habitats for conductive vectors of diseases. As is well known, climate change-related events can no longer be considered as extraordinary and localized phenomena, but should be intended as ordinary factors. The increase of events and the seriousness of some of them is convincing the public opinion that mitigation measures will no longer be enough, and that for the future it will be necessary to identify a set of possible adaptation measures to be implemented rapidly and at different levels through development plans, financing, and shared strategies. Among the European Union 2013 adaptation strategies, those strategies that aim to make Europe more climate resilient, there is the Integrated Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy that was made in 2015, which is based on specific and local data and local knowledge, and it aims at developing sustainable energy and climate action plans, also known as SACAPs. So the framework of this presentation is a project our School of Architecture is currently working on. It's called the Joint SACAP, and it brings together 9 partners that have in common the fact that they are all on the Adriatic coastal territories. There are 4 Italian and 5 Croatian partners. Among them, there are municipalities, research centers, public institutions. There's 1 region. The University of Camerino is lead partner. Each partner has identified a target area on which they're focusing their analysis and on which the local public institution will develop SACAP plans. In some cases, the target area is a highly populated metropolitan area. In other cases, it can be a consortium of municipalities. All of the target areas have in common the fact that they're all subject to tourism during the summer. Overall, we're talking about 700,000 people that live in the joint SACAP target areas. The main aims of the project is to raise awareness of citizens about the risks and about measures related to climate change, with workshops, seminars, websites, promotional materials, but also gathering data and making assessment of climate change through a web platform which collects data and that will be available for free and for all interested stakeholders and citizens. The main phases of the projects you can see them in this diagram. We are halfway through right now. It begins in 2019 with context analysis of each pilot area, the definition of a common methodology for the development of risk and vulnerability assessment, the web platform definition, the definition of climate scenarios for each territory, adaptation options, and it will end with the joint action implementation, which is the main output, the joint sustainable energy and climate action plan. We are developing right now the impact chains. The partners have several impact chains which have been developed through the shared methodology, which you can see right here. It's an 8-step methodology which will allow to develop impact chains, identify and verify indicators, weight and aggregate indicators. So it's more than measuring potential harm using the information about climate impacts. It includes an assessment of the territory's ability to adapt. This includes analysis of past and current weather trends, projected changes in climate conditions. It identifies sensitivity. It estimates adaptive capacity in terms of available financial resources, human resources, and adaptation options. If you make a sum up of the main hazards and the main risks of the impact chains, you have this diagram here, and you will find out that, for example, there are some recurring hazards that have to do with droughts, the increase of average temperature, the presence of hailstorms, sandstorms, heat waves, but also if you look at the main risks, you can see that there is the agricultural sector, which is recurring, the water supply sector, the damage to urban structures, the erosion. In particular, if we summarize that data and we focus on outdoor urban spaces, we will see that the recurring hazards have to do with heat waves, droughts, extreme precipitation, heavy hailstorms. But also the intermediate impacts have to do with reduced groundwater recharge, water shortage, drinking water reduction, overloading of the drainage system, flooding, which can be coastal or from rivers, excessive runoff, drainage system overload, air temperature increase, infrastructural damage, landslide, coastal erosion, damage of infrastructures, and impacts on human health. The recurring sectors that have to do with outdoor spaces are the tourism, transportation, people, energy, industry, and also ecosystems. So why are we focusing on outdoor urban spaces? Because we know that it can be considered as a connective tissue for the community, as a place of individual and social well-being, as an expression of diversity due to the ability to support different possible social relationships, as well as a place of democratic health and of active citizenship. We also know that people are attracted and spend more time in places that offer elements of interest, stimulation, and a certain amount of environmental comfort. There is a tight relationship between the quality of space between buildings, as Yangel calls it, and the presence of people and the type of activities that people carry out there. Spaces that are characterized and linked to the territory can constitute an element of local identity, strengthen the sense of community, foster collaborative practice, enhance security and social cohesion. It is also known that outdoor urban spaces play a key role for the environmental, economic, and social well-being of citizens, in particular because they have the ability to create safety and social inclusions, but also because they expand the possibilities of movement, and therefore they contribute to improve public health. So according to the risk and vulnerability assessment taken into account, the Adriatic coastal cities, as other coastal cities, have the usability of the outdoor spaces can be at risk in these towns due to a series of variable factors that include the physical conformation, their position, the proximities to infrastructure and water bodies. The usability of these spaces can be considered as at risk. During climate change events, they can often become uncomfortable, unsafe, or even dangerously damaged for a longer or shorter amount of time. Outdoor urban spaces are among the most vulnerable to climate change areas, and in particular with flooding events and with urban heat island events. It is through these spaces that some of the most tangible risks arising from climate change materialize. And so it is on these urban areas that we should place our effort to find adaptation measures for the future. The implementation of SECAPs and the transfer to ordinary territory planning tools can require medium-long time application. But adaptation challenge should be conducted on a long time scale. However, in the meantime, it is necessary to identify an interface that enables operational measures between the large and the small time scale. So we are also working on a prompt range of possible intervention types that enables this link between the large and the small time scale. From the analysis of case studies, it is possible to identify a series of measures that are immediately applicable and that offer a set of implementation possibilities. You can find, let's say, three main categories. One is retrofit interventions on open spaces, on plant systems and structures, those that need to be renewed since they have already been subject to climate change events. This includes the replacement of materials, renaturalization of water courses, permeabilization of surface, replacement of systems and measures. These adaptation measures you can find in this diagram. For each one of them, you can find if it can be related to one or another climate event, which you can see on the top: heat waves, droughts, groundwater flooding, river flooding, coastal flooding, and hailstorm. For each one of these, you can find if it is a small-scale intervention, medium, large, if it's a restoration or a new type of intervention. The second category is the enhancement of spatial conformation of outdoor urban spaces that have potentialities, considering that some urban areas can suffer impacts. In the same way, some other urban settings could reveal a great level of resilience and contribute to soften the effects of climate-related impacts. For example, the configuration of historic buildings, courtyards, can provide protection against the urban heat island effect. It is necessary to start a reading of these potentialities offered by the cities and their possible networking, and understanding what are the characteristics that accentuate or mitigate the effects of climate modification. They could also be declined in relation to the potential of enhancing the internal and external relationship, for example, through the reconfiguration of ground floors. The third one is small-scale interventions, devices, street furniture, temporary structures, shelters, floating pavilion, bike facilities, bus stops, interactive displays, lighting systems that are connected to the internet and are capable of providing and enhancing information with urban users. This structure often have integrated sensors that detect air temperature, humidity, polluting agents data in real time and spread this information through interfaces or directly on the internet. They could be considered as a part of an ecosystem of data-driven service. They could be shelters also that provide protection against the climate events, sandstorms, extreme temperature, but they could also provide warnings and emergency information. For example, we can imagine a new way of using the city through this small-scale intervention. The Rotterdam floating farming dairy is an example. It provides real solution to real problems, such as the food supply. We know that the amount of surface for agricultural land does not grow as the population increases, but rather it decreases due to the growth of urban areas and to the effects of climate change. The dairy offers a model based on circular economy. It generates electricity, collects rainwater, and it makes it drinkable through special purification systems. But above all, it supplies milk to some supermarkets of the area. It is a floating building, temporary, capable of being rearranged in similar contexts, expandable, modular. It suggests possibilities for climate change adaptation for those contexts that are characterized by increase in rainfall, frequent flooding, or subject to sea level rise. Open architecture project for the Sava River in Zagreb also is interesting because it shows how you can find pavilions and piers that have a twofold configuration, the non-flooded one and the flooded one. Some cities are experimenting new climate-proof furniture, bus stops, city trees, urban shelters that offer protections. The city trees, for example, are nature-based structure, particularly suitable for urban areas that are affected by heat waves and droughts. The presence of plants, essence or masses capable of absorbing carbon dioxide decreases the external temperatures, and it has a control on humidity. These devices have peculiarities such as collecting rainwater, filtering it, reusing it, providing connection for electricity, offering free Wi-Fi. In many cases, these are IoT devices that monitor air quality in real time. Finally, it is necessary to highlight how mobile devices and wearable technologies can represent a further step in increasing the resilient level of individual citizens, in particular for the potential offered if they work in network. For example, alert systems that use text messages and secure people in events of tsunamis have been in use for many years. ICT is also already used as a connection network to send early warning systems and to disseminate safety and emergency information. The implementation of this type of technology through the use of geolocated smartphones, increasingly popular even in those remote areas of the planet, could be a key. Not only apps that create awareness, but effective, active, interactive, connected tools. The potential could be understood if you imagine these systems integrated with the wearable products that you can already find on the market. The one you can see, for example, in these pictures, and that gives information related to physiological data, but also to weather and pollution data. So this presentation highlights how the adaptation can be addressed on various scales, from urban planning to mobile device and wearable objects. There is a wide range of possibilities on which it will be necessary to concentrate research efforts, including the possibilities of developing strategies that combine top-down actions coming from ordinary planning tools with other bottom-up that refer to people's daily practices. New applicative and concrete possibilities emerge from the spread of information, from the spread of IoT, from real-time data sharing. Individuals become smart citizens, actors for the network functioning, in which they become collection and transmission agents. This contribution can provide a basis to support the creation of a framework of opportunities aimed at improving the outdoor urban spaces equipments, their role, their usability, and enhance their safety and their accessibility in ordinary but also during extreme event phases. Thank you. Please write to my email address for any question.